Hey guys, it's your girl Che. What's up? And welcome to another Say What Saturday. Even though it's Saturday, it'll probably get posted on Monday or Tuesday. Because due to the amount of research I had to do, because I didn't believe half of the shit that I read, I had to research this just to make sure it was true. And it is shockingly disgusting, the torture methods that they used to use back in the day. I have the top 10 most brutal torture methods used ever recorded in history. So if you'd like to hear what they are, just stay tuned. Because not only am I going to tell you what they are, there are, I'm going to just put out a disclaimer, there are graphic images in this, but it's not of real people. It's recreations of each method with my hair is in pigtails, sorry. So if it looks like I'm bald, I'm not. I just have low pigtails in. But just letting you know now that, you know, they recreated it with like cartoon characters and drawings and in the video to show you how it was done. So if you're interested in the top 10 most brutal torture methods ever recorded in history, then just stay tuned because it's coming up right now. See y'all in a second. Okay, guys, so coming in at number 1, we have something called necklacing. Necklacing is actually when it's a method of torture where if you go against a certain, you know, like back in the day, if you denied your king or if you go against a certain whatever, they would literally hog tie you, kind of. They would tie your hands behind your back and your feet. They would put a rubber tire, slide it down over your midsection, pour gasoline all over the tire, and light it on fire. It has been said that in the video, I think it said it can take anywhere, if this damn fly does not die soon, I will. But it said in the video it can take anywhere from the person to like 10 minutes to 2 hours to die with this torture method. So here is number 1, necklacing.
Necklacing is a horrific torture that involves forcing a rubber tire filled with gasoline around a victim's chest and arms, and then setting it on fire. The victim may take up to 20 minutes to die, suffering severe burns in the process. In South Africa, Nigeria, and India, necklacing was a common sentence carried out by angry mobs to punish suspected thieves and rapists in the 1970s and 80s. Brazilian drug lords are also known to have necklaced their enemies. Most notoriously, the journalist Tim Lopez in 2002. After he was kidnapped by local drug dealers, his hands, arms, and legs were severed with a sword while still alive. They then stuffed his body in gasoline-filled tires and set it on fire.
Okay, and if you think that was bad, that was only number 1. We got 9 more to go. So, and I did forget to talk to you about my green eye makeup. No lashes, nothing. I did a natural skin look. It actually came out like I really liked it. So if you guys want me to do a tutorial on this, I'm wearing the Go Eagles Super Bowl champions like 10 years ago. But if you like this makeup look with this dewy skin, I can recreate it later this week. Number 2 is called the rack. Now the rack is a long table, and they would lay your body on it. And it's basically, the rack is called the stretching table. And I think you know where I'm going to go with this. They would have both of your arms up, just like that. And they would have both of your feet connected to something else. And then the guy would roll a, you know, like a knob, I don't know, like he would just roll something that slowly would pull your body apart. And they said the worst part of this torture, I believe they said, was actually you hearing your own cartilage and your limbs and ligaments pop. You can actually hear it because you don't die right away. And once all of your ligaments are basically stretched out. Your body becomes useless. It's like a flimsy, there's nothing to it. You end up dying. And they just tossed their bodies off to the side. So here is a glimpse of number 2, called the rack.
The bone-snapping, ligament-tearing torture device known as the rack was one of medieval Europe's favorite interrogation platforms. Essentially, it is a table that has 2 rollers on either side. The victim's ankles are fastened to one roller and the wrists are chained to the other. A handle and ratchet mechanism attached to one of the rollers is used to gradually increase the tension on the chains, inducing excruciating pain. Over time, the sufferer's joints are dislocated and eventually separated. One horrifying aspect of this torture is hearing the loud popping noises made by snapping cartilage, ligaments, or bones. Muscles are stretched to the point that they lose the ability to contract, rendering them useless.
Disgusting, right? Yeah. All right, number 3 is called rat in a bucket, which I think some people might know because I knew this one only from watching, oh my God, Wolf of Wall Street with Leonardo DiCaprio. Remember they had that like fat guy in the back room? He was in Sons of Anarchy, the fat guy. And they put that metal bucket on his stomach with a rat underneath. And they just put tons of hot coals on top until it heats up inside the bucket so bad the rats have to escape. Well, where are they going to go? They can't escape through a metal bucket that's being held down by men, so the only way that they can get out is through your intestines. So what do you think they do? They, like a little rat does, and I don't even know how many rats they put in this thing. Probably like 3 at a time, 1 to 3, who knows? But you can they eat through your intestines. They actually say in the video, one man survived this brutal torture, and because he survived the rats eating through his skin and his intestines were shown, they decided to pour the hot coals that were left on his intestines with no covering, just laid the hot coals right in the opening of his stomach. So this is number 3, rat in a bucket.
Rats will do anything to escape an uncomfortable situation, and torturers use this knowledge to their advantage in their sick experiments. A pottery bowl filled with rats are placed open side down on the naked body of a prisoner. Red-hot charcoals are then piled on top of the bowl, effectively heating up the pot and making it unbearable for the rats. The rats' only way out is to gnaw into the very bowels of the victim in an attempt to escape the heat. In one documented occasion, during the Dutch revolt in the 16th century, a prisoner of war endured this torture. After the rats ate through his flesh and scratched at his intestines, the hot coals were then inserted into his stomach, scalding his internal organs. The head crusher is a device that clamps down on the victim's head, smashing it between a metal plate and a rounded iron cap. As the executioner gradually twists the handle, the victim's skull is slowly crushed. Bone fragments from the skull can puncture the brain, causing spontaneous muscle spasms and, of course, brain hemorrhaging. If the person inflicting the pain wants to torment the prisoner even further, he could strike the metal cap with an iron rod, sending echoing pain throughout the person's body. In most cases, the victim is killed, but not before the jaw had been crushed and their eyes had popped from their sockets.
Disgusting, right? Disgusting. When I saw the eyeballs come out, I couldn't even imagine that amount of pressure on my head to the point where my eyeballs just, you know what I mean? Like plopped out. I can't even think about it. And the person doing these evil things, like, shame on you. And I'm sure that they are sitting in a hot seat in hell right now, going through exactly what they did to other people. What goes around comes around. Number 5, we have the Tucker telephone, which this was actually used on inmates in jail. What they would do is if you acted up or acted out of order or didn't want to listen to somebody, they would have a telephone sitting on a table. They would tie one electric cord around your big toe. The other one, they would tie it to your genitals. And they would prank phone call the telephone. And they would have it set up to send electric shocks back to the genitals and down to your feet. So they could keep this phone call going for as long as they wanted. And if the prisoner passed out, they would splash water in their face to wake them up. So here's number 5, the Tucker telephone.
The Tucker telephone was an electroshock apparatus used in Arkansas Tucker State Prison in the 1960s and 1970s. Inmate doctors would use this torture device on unruly prisoners. The device worked by placing a ground wire around the big toe of a prisoner, while clamping the hot wire to the person's genitals. The wires were then hooked up to a telephone that had been modified to send electric shocks. As the phone was being cranked, piercing electrical currents were sent throughout the prisoner's body. In prison slang, a long-distance call was a series of electric shocks in a row. Any inmate that passed out from the experience would be splashed with cold water and shocked again, intensifying the agony.
It's like, I don't know what's worse. Like, I don't think I would have put Tucker telephone at number 5. I think that would have been like lower down, like number 2 or 3. Because I was actually thinking of like which one I would have to pick if I had to choose a way out. My 2 biggest fears are like burning to death and drowning to death. Like, if I know one of them are happening to me, I will easily put a gun to my head and blow my brains out. Like, I have no problem doing that if I know I'm going to get tortured with fire or I'm going to drown. I have no problem doing that. So that's what makes a lot of these really hard for me to watch. But coming in at number 6, we're getting close to number 10, which 1 was the lowest and 10 is the highest, according to this research method. Number 6 is called the German chair, which really sucks because I'm like mainly German. And there's already enough problems with, Hail Hitler, like screw that crazy lunatic. You know what I mean? Like, and now they have something called a German chair. And I'm like, this is great, But anyway, the German chair is a metal chair. And it's like a regular metal chair. But what they do is they put your tailbone on the top of the chair. And they pull your feet all the way down. And going backwards, pull your limbs all the way down so that they are touching backwards. You're basically doing a backwards handstand, but not trying to. And they keep pulling it and pulling it and pulling it. And I didn't understand how they eventually died, because I think that they would let them go and then put them back on it again, to keep torturing them. And eventually, after all the pain and agony, I guess they would either, break their spine or go paralyzed. So here's number 6, the German chair.
Similar to the rack, the German chair is a form of torture often used by the Syrian government against the rebels. When a detainee is captured, they are placed in a metal chair. Their legs and arms are secured to the seat, while the back of the chair is pulled back and down toward the ground. This causes severe stress on the spine, neck, and other limbs, often causing permanent damage. One man who managed to escape the Syrian torture cell claimed that they stripped him naked and hung him upside down in the chair for 8 to 12 hours a day for 4 days. He says the pain was so excruciating that he begged his captors to kill him. He still has uncontrollable twitching as a result of the torture.
This is even hard for me to talk about. All right, number 7. We're almost there, guys. You almost made it. If you made it this far, you got a tough stomach, just like me. So number 7 is called flaying. It's like playing, but with an F. Flaying. And when I first saw it, before I watched and researched what it was about, I'm like, flaying. It almost sounds like filleting, like fillet a steak, Come to find out, flaying is when they take a super sharp knife and they take all of your skin off, up, to your face. They start by taking all your skin off, and they don't take your skin off fast and hard. They do it in little sections, real sharply, and they peel the pieces and put them away, leaving you fully exposed nerve endings, muscles, as your face still has all the skin, so your brain activity is still alive. People have lived up to 2 days. They said the people that survived this method, they would either put them out on, you know how they used to crucify people? They would hang them from something, like on a pole, and they would have their hands and their feet connected, you know, kind of like the crucifixion of Jesus Christ. And as their nerves and muscles are exposed, no skin to cover from the sun. So they would either burn to death, or they would have a huge cauldron and it would have boiling water in it. And they would drop them in there, lowering them in there slowly with no skin, pure nerve endings. But your face and your brain is still intact. So the only way out of it really is it's going to cause so much pain you're going to pass out, or you just got to put your face under there and just drown yourself to end the agony. And this one I thought was one of the worst. It could have been number 10. And this is number 7. It's called flaying.
Flaying, also known as skinning, is an old torture that dates back to 883 BC. It involves different methods to remove the skin from the victim's entire body. The most common form of flaying is to use a knife, inserting the sharp blade just below the chin. The cuts start at the face and work all the way down to the toes. In some cases, the skin would be taken off in small sections and be performed slowly until completely done. What's left is a still living person with exposed muscles, ligaments, and bones, but the face skin still intact. A person could live a few hours up to a day after the skin removal process. Another method involved being severely sunburned and then having the skin peeled off. Lastly, captives would be placed in large cauldrons with only their heads sticking out. Then hot scalding water or oil would be poured inside, boiling their skin away.
All right, guys, we are making our way up. We are already at number freaking 8. Thank you, God. But when I found out about this, I just had to let you know, because we're always complaining about the world that we live in, when we could have lived through one of these time periods and had one of these things happen to us. And I still have 3 more that are the worst. You know what I mean? Like, we need to be grateful for what we have, because this is torture. It's illegal. It's not right. And I thank God every day after researching this that I was not born in one of these time periods or in an area, you know, that still treats certain people a certain way. Like, you know, I am blessed to live in the United States, and I thank God every day for it. But number 8 is called impalement. You already know what impaling is, but this type of impalement was used not with any sword or anything like that. They would get a very long rod, like in the crucifixion of Christ, again, but it would be skinnier, and they would get it as hot as they could. Like it looked orange in the video that I'll show you. And what they make them do is they have to get an execution style, right? So they turn around, and the way they impale them, this, I told you, disclaimer, this is going to get graphic. They impale the person through the anus or the vagina till it goes all the way through them. And if that doesn't kill them, there was actually a story of a mother holding her baby. They impaled her through the back, and it went through the baby as well. Like, I don't know how sick you can be to do this, but if they didn't die from impalement, what they do is they flip the rod up and they push it down in the dirt, and it takes up to 3 days for the body to slowly slide down the rod that is impaled through their private areas. So here is number 8 and how they used impalement.
Impalement was and is one of the most gruesome ways of dying imaginable. The arms and legs are strapped to the ground by pegs, rendering the person immobile. A large oiled wooden stake is gradually forced into the body, usually into the anus. They made sure that the stake wasn't too sharp, or the victim might die too rapidly from shock. There were many instances where victims were impaled through other bodily orifices, or through the abdomen or chest. Infants were sometimes impaled on the stake, forced through their mother's chests. When the pole was then raised upright, the victim was left to slide down the pole with their own weight. It could take the victim up to 3 days to slowly die. This method of torture dates back to 1772 BC, but was made famous by 15th century Romanian Vlad the Impaler. Bram Stoker's 1897 novel Dracula was inspired by Vlad's name and reputation. Recorded instances of impalement are as recent as 1919, during the Armenian genocides.
All right, guys, we're at number 9. You made it. You made it. There's 2 more. Number 9 is called the brazen bull. This one I could not figure out by the title. I actually thought that they put somebody in a ring with a bull and would let the bull like attack them until they were dead. That is not at all what it is. Back in, I don't know what country this was in. I don't know who did it, but they used to have a huge metal bull. It was like a symbolic thing of like the town or the city. And there used to be a huge bull, and it was called the brazen bull. And they would, like, people would be actually around the bull thinking it was like a campfire type thing, because they would put coals, hot coals underneath of it. And the only area that the bull had holes in it was his nostrils, where the smoke would come out. But they had, like, you know how a trumpet has like valves on it that make noise? They had that above the nose, playing noises. And this bull was made out of a metal that was so thick you couldn't hear anything inside as music was playing loudly. So as people were like around it, the person inside, they kept adding more hot coals underneath the bull's belly as you're laying inside of a metal shaped bull. And it said it took anywhere from 10 minutes to 2 hours for the person to fully pass out and die. So here's number 9, the brazen bull.
The brazen bull was an ancient Greek torture device that also doubled as a demented musical instrument. Naked victims were placed inside of a large hollow brass bull statue. In most cases, the prisoner's tongue is cut out with sharp metal shears before being shoved into the empty bovine statue. The torturers would then light fires underneath the bull and burn the person inside alive, raising the heat gradually. The screams of the bull's occupant couldn't be heard because the thick metal casting acted as a sound barrier. The only opening was through the bull's mouth that let out smoke from the person cooking inside. A series of brass tubes were located toward the front of the bull that would resonate the sound of the muffled screams of the tongueless victim. Depending on the intensity of the heat applied under the statue, the prisoner could survive anywhere from 10 minutes to several hours.
If you made it this far, I am giving you a round of applause. We made it to number 10, baby. We are at number 10. So, number 10, I'm not going to waste any time because I know my videos are usually very long, but that's because I talk a lot. Like, I'm an empath. I feel bad. I'm already talking. So shut the hell up, Charlie. Okay. Number 10 is called the Judas cradle. I couldn't figure this out. I remember reading in the Bible something about a cradle with like a baby being put in it, and it was like put down the water. But I thought that had to do with like a man named Moses. So I was like kind of confused because I thought Judas was like the betrayer. He was the disciple that betrayed Jesus. So I was kind of confused. I couldn't figure it out. So as I'm researching this is actually what they would do to people in I guess what they would call a jail if you committed a crime. And they had these wooden posts. They were short, but, well, not short, you know, about 6 to 12 inches. But the wooden post came to a triangle at the top. Their arms would be tied above their head, and their feet were tied together. So if they tried to move, it would cause more pain. Once again, disclaimer, this is the worst one. This should be number 10. I'm just letting you know, this is the worst one. The Judas cradle. Okay. So as your arms are up tied and your feet are tied together, you are being lowered down onto this wooden post that has the sharpest pyramid point at the top. They would start to force the pressure down until it would go, if you were a woman, it would go causing excruciating pain in your internal parts, in your vagina. And if you were a man, it would go through the back end. And they would put more pressure and more pressure and more pressure, and to the point where these people are screaming in agony, and you just see blood start to pour all over the wood, whether you're male or female. I mean, it's only so far you can go in a female as well, you know? And then they wouldn't die right away. This was used as a torture method for a few weeks until these people actually died. They either died because the wooden post went up so far that it destroyed their organs, or the nastiest thing about this is they never cleaned the wooden posts. So the wooden post with about 1,000 other people's anal blood on it, or other womanly fluids on it, you're sitting right on it 5 minutes later. And that's why I think this is number 10. It's the most disgusting and it's the most excruciating, because you would be thrown in your cell and the next morning come back out, and to have to do that again. You know how sore your insides have to be? And for them to do it again, it's almost like you get a cut, you know what I mean? And then the next day, you go and rip it open again. Like, it was so disturbing. Like, I'm holding my chest, like, because I really, anyone that has gone through something like this, like, I hope that God has them and they are at peace, because I couldn't imagine anything like this happening to me, any of my friends, any of you, or any child of ours. It is terrible. So here's number 10, the Judas cradle.
The Judas cradle was a pyramid-shaped seat that a prisoner would be forced to sit on. The victim would be raised over top of the structure with the aid of ropes and a harness. As the person is lowered down, the top of the pyramid would be lined up to enter the anus or the vagina and cause unimaginable pain and discomfort. The feet would be bound together so that if one leg moved, the other one would too, enacting more pain. The subject is tortured by intense pressure and stretching of the orifice, eventually succumbing to tears in muscle tissue. Torturers would prolong the interrogations by raising the victim off of the seat overnight and then continuing the torture the next morning. If the victim didn't die from shock, exhaustion, or impalement, they could have died from infection, as the Judas cradle was rarely cleaned between tortures.
Oh, guys, if you made it this far, thank you for watching this video. Thank you for watching another Say What Saturday. This was probably one of the most blatant, jaw-dropping, say what? Like, almost didn't believe some of the torture methods until I had to research it. And all the names make sense. You know what I mean? And the fact that they had little, like, cartoon images showing and proving that these were real, it hurts my heart. It really hurts my heart to know that people lived during a time period where people could be so cruel. But if you made it this far, those were the top 10 most disturbing torture methods of all time in ancient history. So thank you so much for watching another Say What Saturday. I'll be back later this week with a much happier makeup look to do during the week. And thank you for watching another Say What Saturday. I'll see you guys next week with another Say What Saturday. And for now, bye guys. Love you all. See you soon.